Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm not reacting, reading. Why do I keep doing that? Reading, continuing my read along for Scum Villian. You would think I would be better at this by now. Let's try this again. Today I am continuing my read along for Scum Villian Self-Saving System Volume 4. And yes, I'm always a mess like this. So hi, if you're new here, I'm Janae. I hope you're not new here because this is a terrible first introduction. But anyway, we are back live and I'm so excited because it was very strange doing the pre-recorded, pre-filmed read-alongs, and I kind of like it was fine, but I am a little bit sorry that it was pre-filmed because I think it was one of my favorite parts of the extras, and the fact that I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, like as it was happening, was sad to say the least. But anyway, I hope you guys still enjoyed it. If you haven't watched that yet and you do want to catch up on it, because it's pre-filmed, it's on the like regular videos tab on my channel. It should be relatively at the top. It wasn't that long ago. But yeah, it's also in the playlist if you can't find it there. Hi, hope you're well. Um, but yeah, I just want to give like a few minutes for people to join if they're just getting the notifications and still wanna come to the stream basically. So while we're waiting, can I just quickly say that my volume 4 of the manhwa for Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation finally showed up today. Like, I ordered volume 5 and then realized I'd never ordered volume 4, and I don't know where I slipped up on that. But regardless, I'm still waiting for volume 5, but at least now I finally have volume 4 and it's glorious. And I can't stop looking at any of these covers because you can say what you want about 7Cs. I don't know them besides the down-made things that I've bought, but everything they're producing is so beautiful and I just can't get enough of it. And then apparently there's a new down-made that's came out today that I actually mentioned in the community tab, but I'm really curious about, just because it seems like a funny title and kind of a bit of a different idea, is the Disabled Tyrant's Pet Fish. Beloved Pet Fish? Beloved Pet Fish. There we go. Hi! So yeah, I'm very excited about that. I forgot to check if you guys can hear me. I hope you guys can still hear me. And also, I finally got, and this has been a long time coming, I finally got the frames that I wanted to get to put up some of the artwork that was sent to me, because the fact that this is still not on my walls is frankly distressing. And I just realized the place where I want to put it is like right above my bed, which means it's actually going to be visible in videos. That's exciting. Okay, anyway, sorry, that was a mosquito. Now that I have rambled enough, I think we can just get started. Can you just not, like, how rude can a mosquito be? I don't want it to like suck my blood and me be aware of it. That just seems inconsiderate. But anyway, okay. So I think we can get started. Sorry about that. Also, just quickly, because I almost forgot to mention this, if you're new here, I do take a 10-minute break, generally on the hour or as close to the hour as I think is reasonable, and then we get back on here and continue with the read along. I'm gonna try and do about 50 pages today, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to manage. We'll see. So we left off with Shinjin Chia still in Lo Binghe's dream. and we are on page 278 for anyone who wants to follow along with their own copies. Okay, sometimes Lobingho would leave for half the day. Most of the time it would be to address trouble on the demon side of things that no one else could handle, so Lobingho would have to personally deal with it himself. He pretty much never got hurt. Then one day he hit the jackpot and came back bloody. Lobingho walked through the doors at first, but then, as if he'd suddenly thought of something, he backed up a great many steps and removed his blood-stained outer robe. Expelling a little energy from his hand, he set it aflame, burning it away completely. Only after making sure that there was no blood on himself did he slowly approach the sitting platform. His expression was the same as ever, and he said to the body on the platform, "Shizun, something came up and caused a delay. This disciple ended up returning late, so there won't be any kongi." Naturally, no one replied, which highlighted the way in which the situation was just a little comical. I'm glad you can see the humor in the Shenjin Cheer, because I'm kind of struggling. Shenjin Cheer felt a bit stuck, unable to either laugh or cry, but his heart tinged a sour feeling within it. He replied, "It's fine that there isn't." Over these days in the dream, he'd come into the habit of speaking to himself. Separated as they were by time and space, Lobingho couldn't hear him, and Shenjin Cheer couldn't touch him either. But in the end, he still wished to answer. Lobingho silently stood there for a time, then said, "Never mind." He turned around and left. After a while, he returned through the doors with a steaming hot bowl of kongi. He placed it down on the desk in passing, then began slowly and methodically removing his clothes. Liu Qingge rescued Mu Qingfan. Shen Jingque made a sound of acknowledgement. Lobingho continued talking to himself. It's fine that he'd been rescued. At any rate, Mu Qingfan only ever said, "There's no way. He's totally useless." "How can you badmouth your shushu like that?" said Shen Jingque. Lobingho removed his outer robe. Upon his chest was a wound that was slowly healing. Shen Jingque could tell at a glance that the gash had been caused by Liu Qingge's sword lair. Beneath this new wound was an old one, ever stubborn and resistant, unwilling to fade. Lobingho lay down and rolled over, pulling that body into his arms. In the past, when Baijiang Peak came and knocked me around, Shizun would always come up with a method to take revenge for me. When will Shizun do the same and exact revenge on Liu Qingge himself? Chen Qingque sat upon the sitting platform. "That's impossible. I can't defeat him." "Shizun? Shizun, I can't hold on for much longer." Shen Jingque didn't speak. Lobingho smiled. "It's true. Shizun, if you don't wake up soon, I won't be able to hold on for much longer." But Shen Jingque knew that he would hold on. He would hold that ice-cold, lifeless corpse and hold on for almost 2,000 more of these days and nights. Thank you for reminding me that we are in for, just another world of hurt. These are not the happy extras that I was hoping for. I know I've said it already, but I'm gonna say it again. Um, His heart ached with an overwhelming pain, so much so that it exploded within his chest. Shen Jingque saw a hand stretching forward, furtively trying to touch the stark white face of Lobingho's. He watched that hand as it trembled, unable to touch anything, then suddenly realized with a shock that it was his own. "Shizun? Shizun?" In his daze, Shen Jingque felt someone grasping his shoulder as they sat up. He drowsily opened his eyes. Lobingho was inches from his face, nervously staring at him in concern. "Shizun, what's wrong?" Shen Jingque had yet to recollect himself mentally. He stared at him blankly. At the sight of this loathing her, becoming increasingly anxious. The day before, he'd reached a critical point in his cultivation. That night, he'd shut off his consciousness and so had no opportunity to control his dream realm. After falling into a trembling sleep, he'd been shocked awake in the middle of the night. Next to him, Shenjing Che's brow had been tightly knit, his forehead dripping with sweat. Lobingho knew something was wrong. He realized he must have failed to restrain his powers and forced Shizun to be trapped in a nightmare. He was terrified that Shenjing Che might have had an exceptionally terrifying dream because of him. Shizun, what were you dreaming of just now? He asked persistently. Are you injured? I. Shenjing Che had stayed within the dream for too long, and his soul had yet to make it all the way back. As he looked at Lobingho's face, it seemed both real and yet not, and his vision wavered at times, blurred, and at times clear. He didn't know what to say. Lobingho became even more frantic, and he raised his voice. Shizun, say something. Suddenly, inspiration struck Shenjing Che. He blinked, then pulled Lobingho's face down and kissed him. Okay. I mean, that's one way to calm him down, I guess. Guys, the illustration that we get because of this. Just look at it and tell me that it's not glorious. I love it. And the way that like Shenjing Shi is looking at loping her in this illustration as well. Loping her was speechless. Though he had no idea what was going on, the sudden kiss had made him intensely happy, and his eyes opened very wide. In the next moment, his hand pressed against the back of Shen Qingche's neck as he took the initiative to deepen the kiss. Shen Qingche didn't stop there. After some rustling, he'd already unfastened Lo Binghe's sash and grabbed his hand, moving it inside his own open collar. He led it along the firm lines of his chest, all the way to his enthusiastically pounding heart. At this point, Lobingho seemed a little shocked by the indulgence. He didn't dare to be too impatient or impulsive, and his movements became cautious. However, during his moments of slight hesitation, Shenjin Chad flipped them over, pressing Lobingho beneath him as he roughly tore open his inner robes. Okay. Lobingho's breathing was a little unsteady as he held Shenjin Chad's waist, a faint flush dyeing his cheeks. Shizun, he murmured. What's gotten into you tonight? Shenjin Che leaned down and said in his ear, Tonight, I feel like I like you a great deal. In an instant, Lobingho's entire body went rigid from head to toe. He abruptly sat up and trapped Shenjin Che within his arms. Lightly drawing a breath, he said, Shizun, I might not be able to be gentle. My word, okay. At the sound of the forced calm in his voice, Shenjin Che laughed. You speak as if it doesn't hurt when you are gentle. R.I.P. to Shenjin Che's body, I guess. Before Lobingho's face had the chance to change, Shenjin Che was reaching out with both hands. I'll endure it gladly. Their relationship is taking like leaps and bounds. My goodness. Okay. Chapter 28, Return to Childhood. When he woke up, Shenjin Che slowly turned over in bed, but he didn't find an alarm. Damn, okay, hold on, let me try that one again. When he woke up, Shenjin Che slowly turned over in bed, but he didn't find an arm locked around his waist as he usually did. The light of dawn spilled in from beyond the window. He covered his eyes with the sleeve of his inner robe, but the single movement made his waist and back begin to ache and his arm feel weak. A faint, tearing pain came from a certain part of his lower half, accompanied by a strange sensation of some dried, sticky liquid. Okay. After last night's whole stretch of nonsense, waking up had come with a wave of consequences. Wondering why Lobinghur hadn't woken at the crack of dawn to clean him up and make breakfast on the way, Shenjingqi rasped. Binghe, can we not have another traumatic moment, please? Like we. Okay. No one responded. Even more confused, Shenjingqi forced his eyes open and looked down, only to find a small head with a curtain of soft black hair. Shenjingqi was speechless. The owner of this small head had a cute and pretty face with a natural flush on his pale and tender cheeks, a long, thick curtain of lush black eyelashes, tightly shut eyes, and pale pink lips. This person was also curled up in a ball like a little kitten by Shenjingqi's side, his head pillowed on his own arm. What? Like, I get that we're having a Erha Shizun 2.0 moment here, like a Chuaning 2.0 moment here. Um, but, but why? Okay. Oh no, and they gave us on. It's so cute. Even though this person wasn't the same size, and even though he looked to be about 5 or 6 years old at the most, and even though there were no more even those, even if he shrunk to another size, Shen Jingqi could absolutely still recognize him at first glance. This was the face of the great male protagonist. With a shudder, his voice jumped up an octave. Lo Binghe? He was going to try pinching his own arm to see if he could pinch himself awake, but as soon as he sprang up, that ache in his lower half sent him collapsing stiffly back down. Still curled up in a little ball, Lobinger's lashes trembled, and he slowly drifted awake. With a red mark across one half of his face from his own arm, he squinted at Shenjingqi's half-dressed form across the bed and reached for him in a give me a hug gesture. Shizun. The voice was soft and squishy, so tender and sweet that if it practically dripped. Accordingly, Lobinger froze as soon as he opened his mouth. They gave each other a blank stare. Okay, so he has his like full adult mental faculties. I don't know how to feel about that. I think I prefer it to him like being in the mentality of a kid, but still, this isn't my favorite trope. But the art that comes from it is adorable. So let me just quickly show that to you. It is so cute. Even though this person wasn't the same. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry. After a period of chaos from okay, oh, let me try that again. After a period of chaotic fumbling, they finally managed to sort out what exactly had happened. Okay, Lobinger had been at a critical juncture in his cultivation lately. The common wisdom was that he should have been clearing his mind and keeping himself pure of base desires in order to prevent any mishaps from occurring. They should have removed changing chair from his room for that to work. Baby being hurt, yeah. Um, Yet the evening prior, he had lost control and rolled around with changing chair all night, and finally, he'd suffered a cheat deviation. Well, this is a convenient cheat deviation. Shenjing Chu didn't find this at all difficult to accept because the plotline had occurred in the original text of Proud Immortal Demon Way. Of course, airplane shooting towards the sky hadn't written the arc for cute fluff, but rather because the D.H. Lobinger had been able to openly strut into all sorts of locations an adult man couldn't enter. Of course. Exactly what those locations were one can imagine for oneself. And such a little kid, a- and such a little kid was way better at lowering young women's guard, so they could proceed to have intimate contact, and then, right when they were least expecting it, he'd win them over with a single blow. I don't like that at all. Like, if you look at it from the original plot perspective, it just icks me out. But okay. The plotline had taken so long to show up that Changing Chat thought it had been skipped. He never expected that it had just been unable to occur on time. Changing Chat pressed a hand to his forehead. How much of your martial aspect remains? Not even a tenth. Lobingher had a stern expression written all over his youthful face. Not only did it fail to convey the severity of the situation, it was instead extremely funny. So Shinjinchu very uncharitably began to laugh. After he was done laughing, he rearranged his face into a serious expression and said with a cough, "Just 1/10? Alright, then we can stay in the demon realm." Robbing her had offended more than a few humans and demons both. At this sort of time, the obvious next move was to flee as far away as possible and hide as well as they could. Shenjinshi's first thought was therefore to grab Chibi, lobbing her, and make a run for it ASAP. Having made up his mind, he went to get up and get dressed, only for his face to twitch in pain again as soon as he straightened his back. Every time before, after they finished, Lobing had carried him into the hot spring while he was still deep asleep and helped him clean up. But now Lobingher could at most cling to one of Shinjinchu's legs, much less haul him anywhere. Lobingher crouched down next to him, eyes huge and on the verge of tears. Shinjinchu was silent for a moment, then comforted him. "Forget it, it's fine, I can do it myself." In the deepest part, in the middle of the natural hot spring, Lobingher had dug in the underground palace. The water rose past Shinjinchu's chest. If he tossed Chibi Lobingher into it, he'd immediately be submerged up to his head. So Shinjinchu had to carefully sit down on the round stones along the edge while holding himself, and even instructed him to sit tight so as not to slip. He was about to start giving himself a cursory cleaning when he saw Lobingher straightening to reach a nearby chunk of limestone to try and hand him the box soap sitting there. But no matter how far he stretched, he fell short. This scene reminded him of Lobingher crouching in a valley when he had first arrived at Tangchung Mountain to seek tutelage, a patched up cloth bundled on his back as he assiduously dug holes. I'm not familiar with that word. Shenjinchu looked at him for a while and couldn't resist pulling him into his arms. Expressionless, he began to squish and tug at Lobingher's face. While subjected to this aggressive harassment, Lobingher inhaled a few gulps of water. His skin already had a faint flush from the warm steam, and with his struggle his entire body practically turned pink. In a surge of emotion, Lobingher instinctively grabbed Shenjinchu's wrist and tried to shove him down against the limestone. Though Shenjinchu considerately cooperated and let Lobingher shove him, Lobingher's pretty little face went instantly dark. This is not going well. With this body, even if he shoved Shinjinchu down 1,000, 10,000 times, there would be no point. He couldn't do anything about it. At the sight of Lobingher's face going from red to white to dark, Shinjinchu practically gave himself an internal injury from trying not to laugh. He was so impetuous when tormenting this master last night, suffering the consequences today, are you? Wasn't it Shizun who seduced this disciple first? Lobingher cried out, betrayed. This made Shenjinchu's face flare red, as he internally gasped in shame. He righted his expression and quickly let go. Caught off guard, Lobinga slipped into the water, disappearing in a stream of bubbles. I like how they're trying to like one up each other, but they're both just on the same level at the same time. Okay. Shenxing Chu's preferences being what they were, the first haven he thought of was naturally Tangchong Mountain, but Lobinghe would rather have died than go back there. That was about right. As of now, with Lobinghe's martial aspect damaged, he'd definitely get hounded by onlookers if they went, and Liu Qingge would definitely be within that crowd. So Shen Qingqie compromised and just brought him to the human realm. As they say, the greatest form of solitude is solitude within a city. Thus, they settled in an especially prosperous town. While Liu Binghe was repairing his martial aspect, they would take up residence there to pass the time. Shen Qingque soon got so bored that his bones began to itch, so he casually took up work at the largest academy in the city. Naturally, Lobinghe was unhappy with this. First of all, he disliked it when Shen Qingque took other disciples. Wasn't that throng of disciples on Qingjing Peak enough for him? And now he wanted to take more? Second of all, he disliked it even more when people assumed he was Shen Qingque's son. Yeah, I can see how that would be very unlikable. That is not the word I was looking for. Um, Especially because every time they got into bed at night, he was kissed and hugged, yet he couldn't do anything at all. He even had to listen to Shen Qingque teasingly calling him good boy and my little darling. Lobing her, are we forgetting all the times that you practically glowed because Shen Qingque gave you those more or less exact praises? Though again, I don't know how I feel about that. The fact that he's getting these praises while being a tiny chibi version of himself. More and more, he came to hate his own lack of ability. When Shen Qingque returned from the academy one day, he saw that Lobing had brought a stool to the doorway and was sitting and waiting for him, an aloof and unfathomable expression on his face. If you swapped him with an adult version, this sight would naturally have made one shrink back in fear, trembling in their boots. But what about when he was the wrong size? All he did was make it irresistible to reach out with a pair of fingers to pinch his face. No matter the depth of refusal he summoned on his face, even the little chirping sparrows surrounding him couldn't stop building dirt castles all around his stool, one after another, as they occasionally tried to cajole him to join their game. Oh my word, he's turned into Snow White. That was not on my bingo card at all. Oops. Hmm. Where where am I now? Sorry, I lost my page. There we go. Okay. Said sparrows were the neighboring families' kids. Oh, okay. The not literal sparrows. Okay, my bad. My bad. My bad. Since the first day Lobingha and Shen Qingque moved in, the children had submitted to the male protagonist's charisma halo and clung to him like nothing else. He couldn't even chase them away. Fortunately, they were all afraid of Shen Qingque. Every child was afraid of a teacher, so as soon as they saw him return, the flock scattered. Thus, Shen Qingque gracefully extended his fingers and moved to claim his usual pinch of Lobingher's cheeks. Then a series of bright, crisp voices called Shen Xishong, Shen Xiansheng, there we go, from behind him, and a few graceful figures decked out in silver and gold walked into the courtyard uninvited. Shen Qingque turned and saw that the newcomers were a few of the town's rather energetic married ladies. Oh! He gave them a nod, but before he could offer a greeting, the one in the lead strode up and caught his arm, whereupon she tried to drag him out and away. Rude. Xiang, we've been looking for you all day. Come on, come with me quick. The girl's going to go mad waiting. Go where? Loving snapped. What girl? Shen Jingqie was also confused. Lady A, startled by Lobingher's dark expression, fanned herself and let out a sound of surprise. Such a little one, yet he's so scary when he talks. Whatever is the young master so angry about? Xian Sheng, sorry. Is he mad at you? Lady B bustled over. Here, come over here. Young master, Gigi has some candy for you. Don't get in your daddy's way. I know they're trying to match make Shen Jingqie, and I kind of want to see how this turns out. Because it's gonna be a mess, but it could be a very entertaining mess, so I'm curious. Robinhood ignored them and assumed a cold look. Did you make any plans today? This mo... I don't remember? Lady A tutted at him. Cheng, you know perfectly well, and you still ask. Do you have to make me say it clearly? Fine. I have a niece in my family, an excellent and respectable girl. I thought you two would be a good match, so we arranged a banquet in the Chenxi Pavilion to let you get to know each other. And the girl from my family, and my cousin too. It looked like everything happened fast in this lively place. Shen Jingqie hadn't been here very long, but all the residents of the city were already talking about how there was a new scholar in town. Not only was he well read and highly talented, polite and soft spoken, he also had a handsome and elegant appearance and was very refreshing. Of course, all of this was superficial. The most important thing was that he had to be rich, stinking rich. The fact that all of that is the superficial part, but the rich part is not, is apparently not superficial according to them. Um, He'd thrown down the money for a respectable country courtyard all at once. How could he have managed that if he wasn't rich? And he'd even come with a 4 or 5 year old son, and what a pure and adorable child he was, already a handsome sprout at this age. He would certainly develop into an elegant, dignified gentleman in the future. How devastating! Anyone with an unmarried daughter of suitable age or a newborn daughter without an arranged betrothal would be rearing to snag them. A match with either the elder or the younger, neither would be a bad deal. Okay, but he's like 6 or something, so just hold your horses on that at least. But a side note, can you imagine? I couldn't help thinking, what would be the reaction if loving her suddenly, like, you know, got back to his normal self, and then they thought he was the father of his miniature self, and that made them infer certain, like, actually correct things more or less about Shen Jingqie and Lobingher's relationship. That would be hilarious. Lobingher's face was green with rage. He doesn't need matchmaking. His rightful partner wasn't dead yet. Lady C strolled over, swaying her hips. Little young Master Shen, do you not want your dad to marry a new wife? Won't it be good to have a gentle, pretty new mom to take care of you? That's right, Lady B added. Shen Sheng. You can't spoil your son like this. I hear you even bring him with you to the academy, and he even sits on your lap. You don't have to take it from me, but if you pamper him this much, you won't raise him into a good man. My son, you see, at the sight of loving her on the verge of flattening this entire courtyard with a flick of his arm, Shen Jingqie hurriedly picked him up and retreated. The Shin accepts all of your good intentions. I do not plan on restringing my chin, as it were. That is an expression I've never heard before, but that's hilarious. I have no one at home and a young son to look after, so please forgive me for my inability to accept your invitation. What is Shen Sheng saying? Asked Lady A, who wore a large red peony pinned at her temple, and she spoke with righteous vigour. Men and women ought to get married when they come of age, and you have such a large residence. How can it go without a lady to attend the house? By what logic ought a person of such character and elegant demeanour be all alone with a single child? Not only will you be uncomfortable, it won't look good. People will talk. Lady A waved her round fan, brooking no resistance. It's a date. Shin Shin Shung. You're coming with us right now. The little young master can stay home. Someone will come and keep him company. Loving her sneered. Just who do you think is going to leave? Shen Qingque wasn't able to keep up with this savage charm for long. In consideration for the lives of his 3 eager matchmakers and everyone else in the town, he flung out a few talismans to render them unconscious, abandoned the residence he had bought not even a month ago, and fled. Oy. You know, loving his jealousy sometimes, I'm just like, my good man, he is yours. Calm down. Um, Quickly, before I forget, because I keep wanting to mention it and then forgetting. So, if all goes well, I'll be done with this either this week or latest mid next week. And then after that, we're moving straight on to Urha Volume 4. But my question is, for those of you who are also watching the read-alongs for Urha, should I do 4 and 5 together? Because I checked and 5 is coming out at the end of April, so it should theoretically be with me by the time we finish with 4, I hope. Or should we do like one Urha, another novel, and then another Urha, so that we can space them out and have a more consistent flow of Urha? I'm not sure. Okay, sorry about that, I just had to ask. Let us get back to this. The only place they could flee was back to Tangchung Mountain. Leading Luobinger by the hand, Shenjinche started up the long mountain steps. The man sweeping the stairs did his work as diligently and earnestly as he always had during his 10-some years. As Shenjinche strolled up, their eyes met, and he gave the man a faint smile. Shenjinche was about to greet him when the man looked at him, then at Luobinger, holding his hand, and his face twitched. This is gonna be a mess. Um, All of a sudden, he tossed aside the broom that was as tall as he was and sprinted up the stairs like his rear end was on fire. In a flash, he was hundreds of steps away, and in addition to the shock, Shinjinche felt a sense of pride. That was Tangchung Mountain for you. Even the stair sweepers was a hidden master. Oh. The stairway was lengthy, and before they had gone halfway up, Lobinger began to yawn. He was low on strength at present, so it was unavoidable that he grew tired easily. Shenjinche picked him up. Get some sleep. Getting a read on a disciple's heart was like finding the proverbial needle in a haystack. Sometimes Lobinger was willing to be picked up, but sometimes his entire face would go red, and he would struggle out of Shenjinche's hold, preferring to walk himself. Now he was probably truly exhausted. He curled up in Shenjinche's arms, shut his eyes for a while, and just like that fell asleep. Once he'd climbed the heaven-ascending stairs, Shen Jingqi sensed strange gazes directed at him as soon as he stepped into the main plaza, and he heard a surge of whispers from all around. The stair sweepers started down again, hugging his broom, and gave him an especially strange look on the way. Shen Jingqi walked up to Qingjing Peak, holding and lobbing her. At the doorway of the bamboo house, all his disciples rushed over in a frenzy. As soon so I don't mean to imply that Shen Jingqi's students aren't the brightest bulbs, but there was a part of me that was like, what if they think that this is lobbing her son? Instead of just immediately connecting the dots and being like, oh, this is lobbing her. As soon as Ming Fan saw Loving Her curled up in Shen Jingqi's arms, he looked as if he had been punched in the solar plexus or struck by lightning. While the others fought their way forward to look, he staggered back. Ni Ying shoved aside the people in front of her, stared at Loving Her deep asleep in Shen Jingqi's arms, and covered her mouth. He looks like Alua. He looks like Alua. Nonsense, if he didn't look like lobbing her, who else could he look like? Ning Ying grabbed Shen Jingqi's sleeve in excitement. Shizun, does he have a name? Did you name him yet? Shen Jingqi was perplexed. If he doesn't have a name, can I give him one? What the hell? Lobbing her shifted restlessly in his arms and mumbled loud. Shen Jingqi raised his folding fan threateningly in mid-air, then jerked it back and made a shush gesture. The door of the bamboo house came crashing down. Lobbing her jerked and opened his eyes, startled awake. Liu Qingge strode in like a flying meteor. Shen Jingqi sent a death glare at the furtive-looking Ming Fan, shifted, lobbing her behind him, and gave Liu Qingge a fake smile. Liu Shidi, long time no see. What are you hiding for? Liu Qingge snapped. Hiding what? Shen Jingqi replied. I'm not hiding. Lobbing her planted a hand on Shen Jingqi's chest. There's no need to hide. I'm not afraid of him. Liu Qingge walked over and glared down at the challenge written all over Lobbing Her's little face. After a long time, he managed to stammer out, as if he was forcibly suppressing some emotion. When did you and he, when did we? Is MPEG a thing in this universe? Like, why is everyone immediately thinking that this is their biological child? Like, NXTX, what are you trying to imply? When did they what? What had they done? Liu Qingge seemed to find it difficult to speak, so Ming Fan cried out in his place. When did you have a son with him? He's so big. I can't. I know I said I thought that's what they might think, but I didn't actually think they would actually think that. Okay, anyway. Silence. Great Master Liu, airplane shooting towards the sky didn't write a green Jing impregnal. Well, there we go. So where the hell did they get this idea from? After very impolitely blasting Great Master Liu of Jing Peak, Shen Jingqi still felt like he was numb from a particularly electric shock. Okay, how can a man give birth to a child? Having been told the true sequence of events, Ning Ying now knew that the child Shen Jingqi had carried back wasn't his own baby. She was greatly disappointed, and she felt that her heart, full of passion and 50-some names she'd come up with, had gone to waste. Oh goodness. I mean, if they hadn't named the kid after, 6, 7 years, I feel like that'd be really concerning. Ning Ying Ying. It was the stair sweeper Gogo who went around telling everyone, she said, pouting. We all assumed it was true. Who could have thought Allure would also suffer a chi deviation? Stair sweeper, how talented. Not only are you fast, your galaxy brain level delusions are also so unique. Shen Jingqi will remember this. This disciple thought that when it came to the demon race, making a man give birth to a child couldn't be outside the realm of possibility. Ming Fan said awkwardly. Weirdly fair, I will give Ming Fan that. Everyone vigorously nodded. Shen Jingqi suffered enough even further mental collapse as he attempted to argue for logic. Even if I did, a kid wouldn't have grown this big in a few short months. Who knows? Ming Fan said. We disciples thought that if it was the monster lobbing her as child, it wouldn't be impossible for the kid to be that big, when even they were born. Okay. Shen Jingqi was speechless. That night, Qingjing Peak's long-abandoned mass book-copying punishments made a great reappearance. Oh my word, I love this so much, it's ridiculous. It was a rare occasion that Shen Jingqi managed to make time to return to Tangchong Mountain while the 12 Peak Lords were all in one place. Naturally, they had to get together for a meeting or a meal. It had been a long time since Shen Jingqi had sat down his poser act in the second chair of the rear hall of Chongding Hall. He missed the sensation. He nodded at and greeted the Peak Lords one by one, exchanging a series of "It's been a long time, I hope you've been wells," and "Same to you's." He snapped open his fan, a face brimming with joy. Ye Qinyan's expression seemed to be a bit strange when he saw Shen Jingqi, but he didn't say anything much. He just sat down at the head table, smiled at him, and then placed a stack of files on the table. Shang Qinghua scurried up to collect and distribute them to everyone else. Ooh, are we gonna get a follow-up on things going on between Shang Qinghua and Mo Beijun, or is that just gonna stay a mystery? Shen Jingqi accepted the list from Shang Qinghua, but first gave him a cursory glance. There was no telling what Shang Qinghua had done to piss off Mo Beijun this time, but the corner of his lip was swelling as he gave Shen Jingqi a pathetic smile. Shen Jingqi couldn't bear to look, so he shifted his gaze back to the file. The key points of discussion had already been marked in bold cinnabar red. At the first glance, the sip of tea he had just drunken spewed out of his mouth. I'm assuming one of the topics on the agenda is Shen Jingqi's amazing new baby. I'm like, what? First, aggressively restrict access to copies of the regrets of Chun Shan. Oh, okay. Song of Bing Chue, etc. Forbid the distribution of any edition on any occasion, whether public or private. Set a 1-month deadline for copies to be turned over, after which everyone found to be in possession of or circulating copies will be severely punished. Punishment shall be increased by 1 level for illustrations. Oh my word, this is very, very hot gossip right now. Second, because of numerous complaints, the relevant leadership of Baijiang Peak shall tighten the supervision. Inter-peak brawls are strictly prohibited. Third, because of the small number of complaints, Qingjing Peak shall take note of the time when practicing the chin. Note of the time when practicing the chin. Please avoid the noon break and night times. Fourth, Xianshu Peak requests permission to fortify and increase the height of their fences and petition for their fences to be electrified. They have electrifiable fences? I suppose like you can use some kind of talisman or something, theoretically. Fifth, Kuxing Peak's numbers have dwindled over the years, and they request permission to increase their recruitment efforts. They petition for the first rights to select new disciples the next time the mountain gates are opened. Sixth, the peak lords must increase attention to educate on each peak. Sect members must not fight publicly with Huanhua Palace disciples while identifying as Tangchung Mountain disciples. Seventh, if demons are encountered while carrying out missions, do not rashly attack. Make sure to ascertain their lineage and affiliated division before deciding whether to fight. Nice, nice. I feel like I see Yu Qinyan's hand in many of these notes. Spitting out one's tea in front of everyone was extremely improper behavior, but Shen Jingqu didn't need to worry about the failure of etiquette because after reading the first item on the agenda, most of the other peak lords also spat out their teas. Given his surroundings, he didn't stand out very much. Okay, but you're still the subject of discussion though. That is the one differentiating characteristic here. The meeting room sank into an awkward confusion. Even if Shen Jingqu fanned hard enough to raise the wind and waves, he failed to fan away the miasma. By what great merit had regrets of Chun Shan come to be first on the list? And what the hell was this new one, a song of Bing Qi? After the meeting concluded, Shen Jingqu began to sulkily head towards Qingjing Peak. But before he got very far, he realized quite a few of the peak lords were following him. Shudi and Shimei, I believe the way back to your peaks does not lie in this direction, Shen Jingqu said amicably. That's because I wasn't going back to my peak in the first place, said Qi Qingqi. Shen Jingqu had known this hurdle was coming, but he still made valiant attempt to clear it. Why have you suddenly thought to come visit Qingjing Peak? My bamboo house is simple and crude. I am afraid I cannot provide ample hospitality. What are you playing dumb for? I know your bamboo house is simple and crude. Who wants to visit you? I'm obviously going to see that darling disciple you've hidden away. Do they know? Does she know? I feel like she knows. Everyone in the crowd was eagerly plotting to gawk at Luo Binghe like he was some rare curiosity. Helpless, Shen Jingqu said, he'll be angry. You don't have to take it from me, Shen Shishong, but how does a disciple like him dare to be angry with his shizun? Do you not discipline him properly? That won't do. No matter what your relationship is now, you should keep up discipline where it's due. My guys, you guys are weird. Like, in a good way, but also just weird. So what if he's angry? What's there to be afraid of? Luo Binghe's powers are less than a tenth of his usual. If we don't anger him now, when else can we? You don't anger him now, so he won't come after you when he's fully charged again. That's how that works. Because of his ascetic lifestyle, the Kuxing Peak Lord had a fiery temperament, and he was impatient after having failed to acquire the selection priority he wanted. Enough of this blathering. Are you just afraid we'll empty out your stock of tea? We're coming. Shen Jingqu knew there was no escape, and his face darkened as he was dragged off towards Qingjing Peak. How do you guys know the situation so well? It's like you know it even better than me. He could maybe hold off one or two of them, but when several peak lords swarmed into the bamboo house all at once, there was nothing he could do to stop them. As soon as Chi walked into the door, she lost it and let out a chuckle. Oh no, like, Lobingher's ego is never gonna survive this, I don't think. Lobingher was lying on the bed, deep asleep and tucked in tight, looking just as he had when Chen Jingqiu left. Chen Jingqiu gestured as if to say, "He's asleep, don't disturb him." Liu Chengge sent a glance inside and couldn't resist remarking, "Why does he look different from yesterday?" Different? Chen Jingqiu turned, and sure enough, he was different. Lobingher seemed to have aged 2 years, and now looked to be about 7 or 8. "Admirable growth, admirable growth," Wei Qingwei said quietly. Qi Jingqi peered closely at him. "At this rate, he's going to grow out of those clothes soon." Shen Jingqi hadn't considered this issue. He pondered this, then realized that Lobingher's clothes truly hadn't fit so well that morning, and a chunk of his wrist was showing. True indeed. I've been careless. I'll take him to buy a few more sets tomorrow. What do you mean buy? Qi Jingqi asked. Do you not know how to use what we have? Just go to Xian Shu Peak and ask a few Jieji and Mei Mei to make some outfits for him. At this, a few of the peak lords rather ungenerously began to chuckle. The vision of a crowd of sweet-smelling immortal ladies surrounding a aggrieved demon, an aggrieved demon cut sleeve, and chirping in their bird-like voices was enough to give these peak lords, who had nothing better to do, a good laugh. Seeing their glee at kicking Lobingher while he was down, Shen Jingqi's heart began to hurt for the dredges of his disciple's dignity. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Let's go and sit in the drawing room. Don't stand around here staring at him. Stop laughing. Careful, you'll wake him up. You wouldn't let us look at him before, and you won't let us look at him now either. Shen Shishong, you're such a killjoy. The fact that they're now so chill with him just having a demon lord as a lover is a testament to the progress that the characters have made. Um, okay, let's try and at least finish up this page. Give me some face. Alright, then Shen Shishong should come drink with us on Joxian Peak tonight. I still have to look after Lobingher. You used to hold yourself up in here all the time, refusing to budge. Then you got dragged around all over the place. You're finally back for once, so forget the kid. Let's get together. You need time for yourself. You can't just orbit around your disciple all day. I actually agree with that. Like, lives outside of each other is a good idea. After Shen Shishong finally managed to shoo away his sect siblings and return to the bamboo house, he felt as if his head had swelled a full size. Lobingher was awake and sitting at his old desk. His legs weren't long enough to reach the ground and hung in midair, and next to him was a pile of documents even taller than he was. He held a brush and dipped in red ink as he reviewed some lists and made notes. Shen Jingqiu looked at him for a while, then walked in. What are you doing? Lobingher looked up. Shizun hasn't been back in a long time, and there was no one to organize the books. This disciple wants to make a new catalogue and put them in storage. Just get some rest. You don't have to take care of these things. But Shizun wasn't here, and I had nothing else to do. I thought I might as well just do it. Shen Jingqiu sat down next to him, thought for a moment, then asked, Are you unhappy to be back at Qingjing Peak? Lobingher gave him a faint smile. What is Shizun saying? How could this disciple be unhappy? Shen Jingqiu slowly got up and went to head outside, but suddenly he couldn't move his feet. Loving her jumped down from the table and grabbed onto his legs. "You're right," he ground out through gritted teeth. "This disciple is unhappy." "There you go. If you're unhappy, just say so. From now on, if you have something to say, don't shut it up inside your heart and stifle your feelings. If you really don't like changing peak, we'll leave once you recover your original form. It's just that in your current state, you're unsuited to constant travel. If anything happens, Tangchung Mountain can at least protect you. I do like it, but the changing peak I like is only changing peak. It's not Tangchung Mountain. And aside from Shizun and myself, it has no other people." Okay, but Lobing it's not good to like isolate yourself so much like this. So I was about to stop it here, but I see we're almost at the end of a chapter, so I am gonna finish this one up. But Shenqing Chu thought, "The changing peak you like has never really existed, has it?" Lobingher mumbled, "Shizun, is it true that being with me has made you lose a lot of opportunities to do things for yourself?" Shenjing Chu burst out laughing. "You put on quite a good act of being asleep. Your ears are sharp too. How much of your martial aspect have you recovered?" "Shizun, the reason I didn't want to come back wasn't because I don't like this place. Rather, it's too easy for you to be stolen away here," he mumbled, depressed. "If I were my actual self, I'd have some confidence that I could steal you back, no matter what I had to do. But as my current self, I really feel like I can't win against others." Shenjing Chu rapped the top of his head. "Who asked you to win? You don't need to steal me. Shizun will go with you himself." The appearance of one's conversation partner was truly of utmost importance. If this were the adult version of loving her, Shenjing Chu wouldn't have said something so nauseatingly frank, even if he held the knife to his throat. But since this was the mini version, who he could pick up in his arms, and who was also willing to cling to his legs and throw a tantrum to seek comfort, Shenjing Chu was free of all psychological pressures. Lobingho lifted his face and gave him an adoring gaze. The flowers were in bloom, and the moon was round, and at this fine hour, in this beautiful scene, a faint fragrance floated in the breeze, which sets a perfect mood. Anyone's heart would race. Lubingho's dewy eyes blazed brighter and brighter, and finally unable to resist, he shoved Shenjingchu down on the bamboo couch and pounced. "You're 6. I'm sorry, that's not gonna work." Or 7 now, I guess. He sprawled out on Shenjingchu's chest as the two of them stared at each other. You can continue." But even if they wanted to continue, he couldn't do any of the things he wanted to. Shenjingchu's expression was full of sympathy he couldn't manage to hide. After a while, a howl of unbearable rage escaped from Lobingho's still youthfully tender throat. Not gonna lie, I'm very glad they didn't try to do anything because, no, thank you. I don't care that it's technically the mind of a mature man. It just, Okay, so we are gonna take a quick break and then I will be back at 1:15 to continue for at least a little while longer. So, I'll see you then. Okay, we are back. Sorry for the slight delay. I just wanted to check how many pages roughly we still needed to get through to stay on track. And I also quickly just wanna say this is hilarious. Damn, Chinese censorship strikes again, banning regrets of Chun. Like, even in fiction, we can't escape it, it seems. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing about the corner of Shan Jinghua's lips being swollen. But then I thought, maybe let me not go there. Okay, so we were at page 305, chapter 29. Regrets of Chunshan and Song of Bingqi. Wait, calm down first. From his place, nestled between Shenjingqi's legs, Robinho shifted even farther away. But this disciple saw something very interesting today. I'm afraid I won't be able to calm down for the next few days. Shizun, what should I do? After resting for over a month at Tangchung Mountain, Robinho had finally recovered his original form. Shenjingqi knew this day wouldn't end peacefully, but he still said with composure, "That's easy. What did you see? Bring it here and show the master so we can discuss it together. But before that, get in a more normal position so we can talk properly." It did not waste any time, it seems. Lo Binghe nodded and ignored the last request entirely. "Okay then, I'll let Shizun see." Slow and measured, he retrieved a thin little booklet from his lapels. The little booklet was illustrated in a flowery style, rather gaudy at first glance, not to mention familiar. Shen Jingqi was still pondering this familiarity when Lo Binghe flipped it open, straightened his back, and began to recite in a bright, clear voice. Once night fell, Lo Binghe lay on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to find slumber. He was used to passing out on the cold floor of the woodshed and suddenly finding himself in a bed. He found it difficult to fall asleep, especially when the Shizun he so longed for lay not far away, just on the other side of a single screen and a gauze canopy. The day's salacious inquiries and attentive concern replayed before his eyes, fanning the fire in the pit of his stomach hotter and hotter, higher and higher. Shen Jingqi was speechless. Robinho continued reading with a straight face. Robinho felt his way to the bed. Cloth rustled beneath his hands as he loosened the ties of Shen Jingqi's inner robe, and when he reached beneath the layer of cloth, he found fine, smooth skin and strong, supple muscle. Dazed and spellbound, he tore the waist sash in two. Why does it feel like Lobinga is reading from his diary right now? Like, I'm honestly surprised a little bit that Lobinga isn't having a jealous fit about it. But I think it helps that it's with him. I feel like if this had been fan fiction of Shen Jingqiu with Liu Qingge, he would have been feeling very differently about it. Um, Shen Jingqiu cast a glance at the waist sash Lobing had just ferociously torn open and tossed on the ground. Goosebump rose all over his body. What was he supposed to say to this? Lobing lowered the booklet, looked up, and said in all seriousness, "It says here that this disciple lost his virginity the same night he moved out of the woodshed. In the flames of desire, uh, lurid intentions bloomed. I snuck into the bamboo house's inner room in the middle of the night under cover of darkness, and while Shizun was in the grip of a nightmare, unable to move an inch, did such and such and so, amorous and tender, until the break of dawn. There's non-con in this, but then I was like, that is not inaccurate to what actually, like, not what actually happened, but to the fact that there was non-con in their actual relationship as well. But I just wasn't expecting it from a erotica about them. I don't know. What the hell? If I remember correctly, Lobingham was only 15 back then, utterly devoid of conscience. Perverse lunacy. Thank you, Shen Jingxue. Thank you for saying that. Lobingham continued as he flipped. Though the Lobingham in the novel is more audacious than this disciple and dares to act more boldly, his feelings for Shizun aren't far from the truth. If you really dared to act like that, this master couldn't guarantee he wouldn't take your life on the spot. Oh goodness. Lobingham leaned down and kissed Shen Jingque's earlobe. Warm breath spilled over the rim of his ear as he cajoled him. Shizun, weren't you the one who said we would explore together? At least give it a second glance. He didn't dare look. If that text burned out his eyes, there was no way to get them replaced. Lobingham chuckled. You won't look? Then allow the disciple to read it for you. Voice expressive, he went on. After Shizun lost his chastity to Lobingham that night, he severely punished this rebellious disciple and intended to banish him from Tangshung Mountain sect, but in the end he couldn't bear to do it. He merely treated him coldly until the Immortal Alliance conference was beset by a sudden misfortune. Master and disciple were separated. Several years passed, and when they reunited, Shen Jingque finally fell into Lobingham's clutches. Look here, Shizun. The Huanhua Palace Water Prison chapter is really something else. Okay? Shen Jingque couldn't compete with Lobingham's stubbornness, and he was truly a bit curious. So in a momentary slip of control, he snuck a glance out of the corner of his eye. The single glance burned him to a perfect crisp. Regrets of Chunshan, Part 37, Flirtation in the Water Prison. Shen Jingque shook his head, voice slurred as he spoke. Luo Binghe, you... let me go. Luo Binghe gripped the globes of his... I really about to read this. I'm gonna cut that out because it just sounds so weird to me, sorry. Luo gripped his rear, kneading it once, twice, then pulled them apart to expose the hole that had been ravaged countless times. Why must this be so painful? Shizun, now you're crying for me to let you go? He said it with a wicked laugh. Back then, did you even think this day would come? Shen Jingque sobbed and sobbed. It's too swollen, it won't fit my word. Also, I'm just calling it because Shen Jingque in no way could have seen this entire paragraph with one glance. It was indeed very swollen, so much so that the sight was nearly unbearable. The ring of reddened flesh was so swollen that it nearly glowed. Shut tight, looking as if it would be difficult to remember how Shen Jingque... Oh, wait. No, let's try that again. Looking as if it would be most difficult to penetrate. Luo Binghe felt some sympathy for him, but he soon remembered how Shen Jingque had abandoned him, and his hatred rose yet again. Cold and merciless, he plunged inside once more, but before he got even halfway, he found further progress difficult. For a while, the inflamed entrance was warmer and slicker than usual. It was also narrower and tighter. Tears rolled down, changing to his face like raindrops on flower petals, his breath hitching in gasps. His pain blossomed along the sudden and forced intrusion of the cock. But his hands were tied, and even as he twisted and struggled in vain, he was unable to escape. I kind of question whether or not Lorbinger is growing a little bit of a sadistic kink here, considering the fact that this is not a pleasant scene by any means. The scene within the novel, well, the scene within Regrets of Chun-Shan. So I don't know why he was like, yes, this one's the one that I want to read out to my lover. But, you know, quite questionable. Also, I realized I forgot to show you guys this beautiful illustration. So let me just quickly fix that mistake, because it is truly stunning. Changing chair couldn't speak. How? What the is this? I was like, I ran out of supplementary curse words. Who was this guy crying like raindrops on flower petals, and who was Mr. Tall, Dark, and Deadly? The one who cried the most every time they got in bed was loving her. Okay. Why is that so funny? He looked at the author's name, Sleeping Willowflower. The name alone made him sound like some sort of scoundrel. He had to be the same sort of person as airplane shooting towards the sky. This is okay. So this is Regrets of Chun-Shan. So this still has to be. What is that woman's name? The one who always has her face covered. But that has to be her. For a moment, I was like, are we gonna find out what Great Master Airplane has been up to with his authorly ambitions in this world? He had to be the same sort of person as Airplane shooting towards the sky. After Lorbinger finished reading, he said, "As for the disciple, he never could have forced you like this. If Shizun merely furrowed his brow, this disciple wouldn't have been able to continue. How could I let Shizun sob like this yet still not stop? The depiction here is a bit unrealistic." Not only was it unrealistic, it was OOC. Completely OOC. OOC all the way off the map. The hell was Regrets of Chun-Shan? It was basically trash RPF porn fanfic that was OOC to the heavens, yet it had somehow become so popular. No wonder he always heard girls say the trashier a work, the more easily it becomes a niche hit. Damn, okay. But that wasn't the main point. Shen Jingqiu cursed the author of this book and ballad to be unable to get it up for the rest of his life. I don't think that's going to be a problem, because as far as I know, it's a woman. It'd serve him right to have to jerk it to the end of his days. Why do I have to read this? Until he died, forever unable to find a wife. Why is Shizun's face going all red and white? Asked Lorbinger. The later parts are even more tempestuous and thrilling. They're worthy of both cheers and applause. In truth, I revered Shizun's body like a holy object in those 5 years. I never dared to sully it in the slightest. But this is just a little booklet circulating in the streets. It can't hurt to read and laugh at such fantastical takes. Are you sure you're just reading and laughing, or are you looking for inspiration? Changing Cheer either titled this part Regrets of Chinshan Part 47 5 Years of Empty Waiting. His balls were gonna shatter all over the ground. No, this title. He wouldn't even get near enough to pass the gates into this brave new world. It didn't need to be this kinky, did it? I don't know if this would be what I would assume to be a kinky part. Like, that title doesn't sound that like that. But reality would prove that Chenjingche had underestimated the depths of the author of Regrets of Chunshan. Sorry, let me try that again. But reality would prove that Chenjingche had underestimated the depths the author of Regrets of Chunshan was willing to plumb, okay? The candlelight flickered. Even if Shenjingche was incessant, his brows were dark and his lips were red. His entire person died with a flash of spring. Lobinghe looped Shenjingche's nerveless arms around his own neck before he went to kiss him, to make it look as if Shenjingche had woken up and was hooking his arms around Lobinghe's neck to return the kiss. The curtains hung to the floor, swaying without a breeze. Amidst a desperate entanglement, tousled clothes rustled to the ground. Lobingher's low, gasping breaths could be heard from behind the swaying gauze. Shenjingche splayed lifelessly on top of Lobingher, locked within Lobingher's embrace by the firm grip of his arms. The two pulls on his chest were sucked until they were swollen and scarlet red like a pair of small ripe fruits. For all the things I have read, my brain was still like, he has pearls on his chest? Why am I this naive at the most inopportune of moments? His rear was covered with green and purple handprints. He'd been messed with until he was red and still gently grasping the half-hard cock within, a mess of liquid shining between his thighs. These descriptions, I'm dying. Shenjingqi was going to cry, me too. This wasn't even out of the question. This was practically a challenge to basic values and the limits of morality. And he'd heard MPreg novels were very popular on the Green JJ. Heavens protect me, please don't let Regrets of Chunshan have a pregnancy arc too, thank you. Oh my word, okay. As the pages flipped by, he would yet be struck by lightning from the heavens. Regrets of Chunshan, Part 55. Heavenly Demons and Furious Blood. Oh my soul, please tell me that there's not like some Katara water slash blood bending that's about to go down here. They were pressed chest to chest. Loving her could feel the tender, supple skin of the person in his arms. It was moist and glowing as they soaked in the mountain spring. Without a word, he embraced Shenjingche and leaned down to kiss him deeply, sometimes biting his lips and lightly tugging, sometimes plunging his tongue inside and brashly tangling with his. Though Shenjingche was unwilling, the heavenly demon's blood stirred within his stomach. His entire body went weak. In addition, he was being kissed until he couldn't breathe, his chest rising up and down in uneven intervals, and his chest brushing against Lobinger's muscles. His nipples were slowly hardening. These descriptions. Without his notice, his legs had been pried open and Lobinger plunged inside. Though they had been entangled from dusk till dawn for a while now, and Shenjingchu had grown used to Lobinger's enormous length, the sudden intrusion was still extremely uncomfortable, especially as, when the fleshy members spread open his inner walls, guys, I'm struggling. Warm spring water poured in along with it, and his entrance drank more than a little bit of liquid. Oh my word. The legs hanging from both sides of Lobinger's waist squeezed him tight, and his insides fluttered as well. Lobinger was only thrilled at how this little hole squeezed in. Oh, but why does MXTX do this to me? Okay. Roughly kneading Shenjingchu's bottom to make him relax, he adjusted his position. Not long afterward, Shenjingchu caught his breath and scolded him through his tears. Get out. Lobinger smiled. Shizun chides me so, but his body seems to disagree. Shenjingchu clenched his teeth, unwilling to give in. If you hadn't fed me with that poison blood, how could I be so tormented by an ingrate like you? Under the control of the heavenly demon blood, the only option left to him was to obediently spread his legs even further, relax his soul, and allow Lobinger to sleep with him. His flesh seductively cradled Lobinger, lightly clinging to him. Shenjingchu's breath came in gasps on the brink of a sob, and after a particularly hard thrust, his lips drew tight, low whines seeping from his nose. Lobinger had one arm under his bottom, keeping their hips tightly interlocked, as his other hand blithely smacked Shenjingchu's. The way I'm judging myself right now. Round snow-white cheeks, once with every Shenjingchu was overcome with humiliation. Lobinger didn't let him rest for long after the round, and carried him out of the spring. When Shenjingchu left the water, his limbs and whole tightened, beset by the cold air. Lobinger set him down like a sacrifice on an altar, bare and nearby a chunk of limestone. There he drew him into an interlocked embrace below the open sky. Is there a specific, like, this is gonna sound so stupid, but is there a specific significance to it being limestone, or is it just like, so we have an image in our mind of the types of materials that they built with? I don't know. Because I just realized this is the second time in a relatively short time span that they talked about limestone. There he drew him into an interlocked embrace below the open sky. The limestone was ice cold, and Shenjingchu began to squirm as soon as he was set down. His skin was fair and pale, and after that vigorous round of love-making in the warmth of the spring, his entire body was flushed, a bewitching pink. Black eyes, painted with stars, swelled with dewy ripples as their focus blurred, tired and drowsy, his spirit like dying embers. He turned his head, refusing to look straight at his treacherous disciple, Lobinger. Yeah, see, I don't like this. Cause it's giving, Moran Chuaning before Moran came to his senses and was a better human being. And that's not a dynamic that I'm a fan of. Robinhood slotted himself between his legs, slinging those pale calves over his shoulders, and sank himself inside, then began to thrust at an unhurried pace. Every inch of Shinjinchu's fleshy walls was stretched to the limits as it was scraped by the pillar. The creases at his entrance were stretched smooth. The fact that it's called the pillar is just, I can't. Okay. Shinjinchu had nothing to say. Drugging, non-con, force, what a marvelous buffet. This author was having a lot of fun, weren't they? Actually, I never imagined that heavenly demon blood could be used in such a way, said Lobingher. Shenjingchu was silent. After bearing witness to the depths of the original proud immortal demon way's depravity, it wasn't as if he had never thought of it. He just never expected that one day the usage would be applied to him. Not so much fun when it's you, is it? My eyes have been opened, said Shenjingchu. Lobingher nodded. My eyes have been opened. And he continued, so this disciple can't have had his eyes opened for nothing, can he? Lobingher, even though this master has allowed you to, I never allowed you all this variety, Shenjingchu said in a warning tone. Lobingher startled. Oh, this disciple understands. Somehow I don't think you do. He looked a bit disappointed, but he didn't push the issue. Okay, maybe he does. Now Shenjingchu was the one feeling uneasy. Lobingher had never made any requests of him when it came to these matters. Because of his lackluster skill, he was always cautious in the extreme, and he even somewhat capitulated to Shenjingchu. Now he had finally acquired some instructional material. I hesitate to call it that, but okay. A bit of self-confidence, hoping to try it out together, only for Shenjingchu to toss a basin of cold water over his head. Shenjingchu squirmed in his seat. After a while, he finally picked up his fan to cover his face and said with some reserve, How do you want to do it? All at once, Lobingher came alive, like a flower blooming in the warmth of spring. Shenjingchu was inwardly pleased by this, and told himself he might as well forsake his poor face and play along. The way he just humors Lobingher like there's no tomorrow. They had already done it either way. What did he need face for? Just to be safe, he forced himself to pick up Regrets of Chunchan and flipped through it rapidly enough as a vein jumped in his forehead, but he didn't find any position or techniques that seemed too illogical, and so relaxed a bit. Only to turn around and see Lobingher walking towards him, all smiles as he earnestly held up an even thicker booklet. Oh no. Shizun, why are you looking at that one? No. Shenjingchu had no words. The cover of the booklet Lobingher was holding indicated it was the promising newcomer that held the honor of being a target of aggressive restriction alongside Regrets of Chunshan, Song of Bing Cheer. Its author was listed as the Three Holy Mothers. Oh, okay, so it's the three nuns, okay. I was wondering, so I suppose it's better that Shang Jinhua has not dabbled in the Bing Chia fan fiction, because I think Shen Jingqian might murder him then, like for real. Um, where are we? Okay. This one has even more to teach, and it is far more detailed. Oh, please don't give me excerpts of that. Like the the regrets of Shunshan was already detailed enough. Um, said Lobing her. It doesn't take long to get the hang of putting it into practice either. This disciple brewed a jar of flower wine according to its instructions. Shall we see whether its effect is as described? Look at me like it just has even lower. Looks to me like it just has even lower depths to plumb. Shen Qingqi knew this, that under no circumstances was this jar of wine meant for drinking. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. The props were all prepared. Had Lobinga just been putting on a pitiful act to mess with him? Likely. Lobinga pulled Shen Qingqi's hips up, leaving him uh, pointed high as his back arched into a limber curve, his back towards Lobinga. This was the condition Shen Qingqi had set for accepting his request. If Lobinga insisted on trying something from the book, he would do it from behind, or Shen Qingqi really wouldn't be able to hang on to his easily wounded dignity. Though Lobinga was eternally obsessed with sleeping with Shen Qingqi face to face, let's just go with that, he was impatient to put what he had learned to practice, and he learned from the booklet that the person on the bottom could more easily feel the pleasure if they did it from behind, so he happily agreed. He picked up the jar of rare fine wine, pressed its long skinny neck to the tight pink entrance on Shen Qingqi's lower half, and slowly pushed it in. The neck of the jar was tapered so it entered easily, but the further it was pushed, the tighter he clung to it. The chilly wine poured in, and his insides clenched at the sensation. Shen Qingqi grabbed the blanket beneath him, brow knit together. I'm like trying to understand what exactly is happening here. Is it basically like supposed to be lube? I'm not sure. Hmm, where are we? Oh my word, okay. He could hear the gurgles of the wine as it poured into his intestines, and the swollen, drooping sensation of his abdomen was more and more obvious. That's a lot. Okay, that's wow. Okay, it's fine. This wine was refreshing at. Hold on. Shen Jingqi couldn't help but say, "That's enough." Lobinho obediently stopped, but the mouth of the wine jar remained uncertain inside him. The wine was refreshing at first blush, but its delayed effects were strong. An aphrodisiac, then? Soon Shen Jingqi's insides began to burn fury hot. Unable to relieve himself of this painful itching sensation, he shifted his arms to crawl forward slightly. This time Lobinho didn't stop him. The mouth of the jar slid out of the entrance with a pop. Shen Jingqi clenched before the wine could dribble out, and then he didn't know what to do. Letting wine pour out of him right in front of loving her would be far too humiliating. Yeah, this is not what I signed up for. I'm very uncomfortable right now. Um, but he had only moved a bit, and he already couldn't take it. He was afraid his hold would slip with even the slightest movement. Loving had draped himself over Shinchin chair, one hand playing with his nipples as he ignored on the smooth skin of his shoulder. His other arm lifted Shenjing Chu's sore, weakened hips and lined up his pillar, shall we say, considering that's what they keep calling it. The hot heart had poked threateningly against his rear until it found the small hole and rubbed against it. Guys, I'm stressed. This is making me very uncomfortable. Um, Looks like it really did learn a lot. He really did learn a lot from that damn little booklet. Shenjingche couldn't take the teasing. His hand twisted in the sheets beneath him, and sweat rolled over his body. As soon as its attention had wandered for a second, his clenched shut entrance was breached in one decisive thrust. Shenjingche immediately went limp from the waist to legs. His arms also failed to support the weight of his upper body, and he sprawled over the bed. The only good thing was that with Lobingher's considerable size, his entrance had been entirely plugged up. Oh, word. The wine was sealed securely inside Shenjingche, unable to leak out. It still hurt having that thing thrust inside him all at once, but amidst the pain, something seemed to be different. The wine lit his insides on fire, the feeling full and hot and wet. When Lobingher began to thrust, Shenjingche couldn't stop the liquid from spilling out as his delicate flesh was pulled outward. Ow. That just sounds very painful. This has just been a lot. Parisian and sword, Shenjingche and wine. Oh my word. I actually have never read the apparently infamous sword scene from that. I skipped all the sex scenes when I originally read Modal Zusha, so I know the reference, but I don't actually know the reference. Okay. Dripping like flowing nectar. The wet sound that came from each movement made his entire face flush with embarrassment. A tingling sensation alongside an ache spread from deep inside his lower belly. That spot inside him thirsted to be rammed roughly against until it itched, but that flared head only brushed against the patch of tender flesh. Shenjingche's waist twisted in frustration, and he couldn't stop himself from pushing his hips back into the thrust. Lobingher missed none of the tiny movements. He paused, panting for breath, then continued joyfully, Shizun, does it feel good? Am I doing well? He pistoned in and more of the faint red, translucent wine leaked out from the point of their union. Liquid splashed between Shenjingche's fair thighs, fine wine, and his disciple pallor surged inside him, raising waves. Shenjingche's knuckles went white as he clung to the blankets, and he clenched his eyes shut in anguish. Lobingher wouldn't give up. Does it feel good? Does it feel good or doesn't it? Shenjingche mumbled something. Lobingher couldn't make it out, so he leaned down to hear him, sending that thing between his legs even deeper inside. Shenjingche's tailbone ached with the stretch. He gasped, Face, face. The burn of the wine had made Shenjingche red all over, as if his entire self had been steamed in liquor. Even his breath took on a refreshing flavor. Lobingher was tempted to lean in and kiss him at an angle, tongue searching inside his mouth, and found that even his saliva carried the heady fragrance of the wine. Shizun, he said, do you want to see my face? Shenjingche nodded nearly imperceptibly. You better be sure it was on Shizun's request that we do it from behind. If you want to see face to face now, I'm afraid it won't be easy to turn back. His low, hoarse voice puffed warm breath into Shenjingche's ear. Shenjingche's head spun, and he dazedly clenched his jaw. Lobingher abruptly pulled out and roughly flipped him over into a powerless position of lying face up. A pink flush clouded Shenjingche's pale cheeks. His eyes and the tips of his nose was especially red, and some tears hung from the ends of his eyelashes. Lobingher kissed each of them one by one, the fingers of one hand tenderly circling the soft outer rim of his entrance as the other slid under his back to support him. He said lightly, Shizun, look. He guided Shenjingchu's chin. As soon as Shenjingchu looked down, he saw the mess of wine and fluids at the base of his fair thighs. Between those mounds of flesh, a flower seemed to have bloomed, its ring of petals swollen a little larger, leaving some of the entrance overturned as it twitched pitifully and dribbled white fluid. That's a lot. That is a lot. That's a lot. That is. Okay. Whew. Shinjing couldn't manage to speak, and he subconsciously lifted an arm to cover his eyes. Lobinghe gave him a few comforting kisses on his cheek, then thrust in again. Again it burned like fire. Lobinghe let go of his back, and Shinjing collapsed, black hair splayed everywhere across the bed, fingers powerlessly sinking into the taut muscle of Lobinghe's back, his neck arched. Okay, one more page and then I think I'm gonna call it a night. After another round of vigorous thrusts, the wine in Shenjingchu's belly had more or less entirely leaked out. The passage that had been thoroughly washed with strong wine was in an excellent state, warm and flexible, sensitive and amorous, but guarded, yearning to squeeze and cling to the outside invader with all its strength, yet afraid that the thing would tear its thin walls. Wet sounds came from Shenjingchu, and his legs locked tightly around Lobinghe's waist. Buttery smooth inner thighs rubbed against his skin, toes curled, a drunken look on his face. The fragrance of the alcohol drifted through the air, going to their heads. Shenjingchu was truly intoxicated, but before he sank so deep as to lose consciousness, Lobinghe woke him up. He put an arm beneath beneath Shenjingchu's hips and stood up from the bed. Shenjingchu sank down under his own weight. The length inside him instantly pushed through a layer of flesh and hit a spot extremely deep inside him. His heart was nearly thrust right up into his throat, like what was piercing him in that instant was a honed sword. He began to squirm desperately, but at that moment he was entirely suspended in midair. And however much he twisted, he could only further embed, I'm not sure how to pronounce that invading object into him, making this treacherous disciple's length fiercely grow in girth, stretching him until he felt about to retch. But the scariest part was still to come. Lobinghe began to walk. What? Okay. This position sent Lobinghe extremely deep inside Shenjingchu. With each step, that thing didn't pull out, but rather vaguely jostled about inside him, the angle continuously changing, but always enjoying a massage from Shenjingchu's insides as it clenched and trembled. Great! That was a lot. I know I've said that way too many times, I'm sorry. Okay, so we are on page 320. I think we actually did a really good job. That does, however, mean that we're gonna be doing quite a few extra pages on Thursday, but I do think I want to try and actually finish it on Thursday. So, as I said, we are on page 320 and there's 373 in total. But I think we should be able to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it despite all my squirming. And yeah, I will see you guys on Thursday, same time, 9 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. GMT. So yeah, 再见。